The words hung in the air, sharp and brittle, like shards of ice. "You're not welcome here anymore. Not ever again." My sister, Sarah, delivered it with a practiced, almost serene, finality. Her gaze, usually so warm, was now glacial, fixed on me as if I were a stain on her meticulously curated life. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. The hollowness inside me was vast, an echoing cavern where years of suppressed hurt resided. My normal was always this tightrope walk over a chasm of unspoken resentment, and today, the rope had snapped. I'd always been the quiet one, the observer, the one who smoothed ruffled feathers. My family saw it as weakness, Sarah as an open invitation to step on me. My life had been a comfortable hum of routine, my job in archival research, my small apartment filled with books, my infrequent, strained visits to my parents' home. The toxicity wasn't overt shouting matches, but a slow, insidious drip of favoritism, of Sarah being the golden child, the prodigy, while I was the dependable, unremarkable footnote. She always got the bigger slice of cake, the more enthusiastic praise, the last word. It was the unspoken contract of our childhood. I remember one Christmas, a few years back. Our grandmother, bless her soul, had left us a small inheritance. It wasn't life-changing money, but it was enough to make a difference. The will was read, and Sarah, even while tears streamed down her face for their dearly departed matriarch, immediately started calculating. "So, that means I can finally afford that down payment," she'd announced, already pulling out her phone to check real estate listings. My parents beamed, oblivious to the way my stomach had clenched. I'd just nodded, too weary to point out that perhaps a moment of quiet reflection on Grandma's legacy was more appropriate than a financial transaction. Then there was the time our parents sold the old family cabin. It was my sanctuary, the place I'd spent summers reading and sketching. Sarah, of course, had declared it a money pit and pushed for the sale. When I'd tentatively suggested keeping a few of the worn, wooden chairs for sentimental value, she'd rolled her eyes. "Honestly, you're so sentimental. They'll just take up space. I'll sell them online for you, get you a bit of cash." She'd sold them within a week, pocketing the small sum, never even telling me what she'd gotten for them. These weren't acts of malice, not in Sarah's eyes. They were just sensible decisions, the kind she made, the kind I apparently couldn't grasp. The psychological toll wasn't a sudden breakdown, but a slow erosion of self-worth, a constant feeling of being less than. I learned to build walls, to retreat into my own world, to find solace in the quiet certainty of my own mind. The scene at my parents' house that afternoon was as mundane as it was devastating. A Sunday roast, the clinking of cutlery, the drone of the evening news. My parents, bless their hearts, were blissfully unaware of the storm brewing. Sarah had been meticulously laying the groundwork for weeks, planting seeds of doubt about my reliability, my judgment, my contributions to the family. She'd subtly twisted my words, painted my quiet nature as aloofness, my independence as selfishness. Today, she'd finally sprung her trap. It started with a casual remark about a family vacation I couldn't make due to a crucial work project. "It's always something with you, isn't it?" she'd said, her voice dripping with a feigned disappointment that was more cutting than any anger. My mother, ever the peacemaker, had tried to smooth it over. "Oh, Sarah, don't be like that. Has work responsibilities." Sarah had pounced. Responsibilities? Or just an excuse? "It's always been like this. You never make an effort. You're not part of this family." My father, usually a man of few words, had simply nodded in agreement. And then came Sarah's pronouncement, delivered with a triumphant glint in her eye. "She's made her choices. She can't expect to be included when she's not around. Frankly, it's easier for all of us if she just stays away." The air in the dining room thickened, heavy with unspoken judgment. My parents looked uncomfortable, but no one intervened. The silence that followed was deafening, filled only by the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall, each tick a hammer blow against my heart. I could feel Sarah's eyes on me, waiting for a reaction, for tears, for an outburst that would further solidify her narrative of my emotional instability. But all I felt was a profound, chilling calm. That night, I didn't rage. I didn't call anyone. I simply went home, made myself a cup of tea, and opened my laptop. For years, I had been diligently documenting everything. Every instance of Sarah's entitlement, every manipulative comment, every time she'd undermined me or taken credit for something I'd done. It wasn't a hobby, it was a necessity. I had a private folder, meticulously organized, filled with shots of texts, emails, financial records, even recorded conversations where her true intentions were laid bare. It was my secret file, a testament to her character that I'd kept hidden, not out of fear, but out of a desperate, foolish hope that things might change. But they never did. Sarah's exile was the catalyst. My decision wasn't born of revenge, but of a quiet certainty. I knew exactly what needed to be done. I began by compiling a summary of my findings, presented in a calm, objective tone. I detailed her manipulation of our parents' finances, her attempts to profit from family heirlooms, her pattern of emotional blackmail. I included proof of her spreading rumors about me to extended family. It was a cold, hard account of her actions, devoid of emotion or accusation, just facts. Then, I turned my attention to the family's shared assets, particularly the joint holiday property our parents had bought years ago, which Sarah had always treated as her personal escape. I'd noticed something years ago, a loophole in the paperwork she'd overseen. She'd been so eager to appear in control, so dismissive of my questions about the details, that she'd overlooked a critical clause regarding independent valuation and a mandatory buyout option. Armed with my meticulously compiled evidence and the original property deed, I contacted a lawyer. There was no drama, no shouting match. Just a quiet conversation, a review of my documents, and a swift, legal process. Sarah was completely blindsided. She'd expected me to crumble, to disappear. Instead, I initiated a legal process that effectively bought her out of her share of the property at a significantly undervalued price, based on a clause she'd never even known existed. I presented the legal documents to my parents, and then to Sarah. The moment she saw the official seal, the words on the page, her smug satisfaction evaporated. Her face, usually so composed, crumpled into a mask of disbelief and dawning horror. She saw it then, the consequence of her arrogance, the tangible result of my quiet observation. The aftermath was a whirlwind of frantic, indignant phone calls and tearful pleas from Sarah. She unleashed her flying monkeys, my aunt, my mother's best friend, who tried to shame me, to guilt-trip me into retracting my actions. They painted me as the cruel, unfeeling sibling, the one who was tearing the family apart. My parents, caught in the middle, were a mess. But they also saw the evidence, the undeniable truth of Sarah's behavior laid out in black and white. Sarah's social standing, meticulously crafted over years, began to fray. Whispers followed her. People who had once admired her seemed to look at her with a newfound suspicion. The entitlement she'd always wielded as a weapon had turned on her. She was no longer the victim, the wronged party. She was exposed. I didn't gloat. I didn't engage with the drama. I simply let the consequences unfold. The family gatherings became less frequent, and when they did happen, the atmosphere was undeniably different. Sarah's voice was no longer the loudest. Her pronouncements were met with hesitant silence, not immediate agreement. My quiet was no longer seen as weakness, but as strength. The emotional justice wasn't about making her suffer, but about stripping away the illusion she had so carefully constructed. The satisfaction came from the absolute, unassailable truth, and the quiet, irreversible shift in power. My secret file hadn't silenced her with a bang, but with the cold, hard logic of her own undoing.